Thank you so much for having me here. This is such a wonderful event. I'm learning so much, and I've met so many wonderful people so far. I'm going to be here for the rest of the day, so I hope I get a chance to meet a lot more of you wonderful people. So, before I start, show of hands, how many people here have backed a Kickstarter project? All right, looks like third, half. Okay, great. Has anyone created a Kickstarter project? One, two, oh, okay. So this will be new to a lot of you. As Jane mentioned, I've created a Kickstarter project, my book, Derbylife. I've also backed almost 200 projects in my time. So Kickstarter pays me and I just send all my money right back. Today I'm going to be talking about what Kickstarter is, how to use it, and specifically how it's useful for publishers and Canadian publishers even more specifically. So Kickstarter is a place to bring your creative idea to life. It's a crowdfunding platform, so it's a place where you can raise funds and build community around your creative project at the same time. We have 15 creative categories. Publishing is just one of them. We also have art, dance, theater, film, technology, and many others. Some projects span different categories. For example, an app might be publishing and technology, or cookbooks are food and publishing. Within the publishing category, we have 15 subcategories, including anthologies, children's books, podcasts, translations, and more. Since our inception in 2009, almost 100,000 projects have been brought to life with Kickstarter's help, and that represents almost $2 billion pledged. More importantly, Kickstarter is a vibrant community. More than 10 million people have backed projects over the past 6 years, and even more exciting to us, about a third of them have backed more than one project, which means that Kickstarter is a place that people are coming to discover new ideas and support new creative works. Almost 2/3 of the money pledged to Kickstarter comes from that repeat backer community. So that means that people who bring projects to Kickstarter aren't just bringing their own community to support them, but they're reaching out to more people and being discovered by new fans. Our community spans the entire globe. We have backers from almost every single country in the world and all 7 continents. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about how it works. As about half of you have backed a project, this probably looks familiar to some of you. This is what a Kickstarter page looks like. And the way it works is the creator chooses a goal, which is an amount of money they want to raise to make their project happen. And they choose a time between 1 and 60 days. Then they put their project up there and ask people all over the world to back their project, to pledge money to support that project. If they reach or exceed that financial goal in the time allotted, then the cards are charged, the backer's money goes to the project creator, and they go off and get to make that thing. If the project doesn't reach its goal, no one's card is charged, no money changes hands, everyone just goes about their business. We call this all or nothing funding, and that sets us apart from some of the other crowdfunding platforms that are out there. Sometimes people ask us why we use all or nothing funding. For us, it's 2 primary reasons. For one, it's less risky, both for you and for the backers. If you need $10,000 to make your book happen, but you only raise $4,000, that's going to be a problem. You know, that $10,000 is your goal for a reason. And you're going to either have to compromise on quality or scramble to make up that extra money. And that's not going to be a good experience for you or for the backer. Secondly, and I think this is the most compelling reason, is we find that it works. It's a very compelling message to your backers that we need to reach this goal or else the project doesn't happen. And so you find that backers who have pledged their money also actually become advocates and evangelists on your behalf. And you'll find backers sharing it on social media, emailing their friends, telling their family, etc. Site-wide, 40% of projects succeed, which means reach their goal. But we find that of projects that, in the publishing category that have just 25 or more backers, 78% of them succeed. So I think a lot of people see that 40% number or think, oh my gosh, what if I put this project out there and I get half the money? That's going to be such a bummer. But we really see that there's kind of a big gap between projects that raise no money or almost no money and projects that go and hit their goal. And I think that's the power of that all or nothing model. So a couple of the presentations and small groups today have talked about the concept of story rather than content. And that's something that we see is being very important on Kickstarter. It's not just a place to get pre-orders for a book, although some people use it that way. But we find that projects are really compelling to people because they're stories. The creator gets on Kickstarter and they talk about what are they making, why are they making it, why is it exciting to them, and why is it going to be exciting to a backer community. And I think that the power of storytelling really does propel Kickstarter projects to success. So before you begin a project on Kickstarter, it's really important to think about what story am I trying to tell? Who is it going to resonate with? As Jane mentioned, I come from a book publishing background, and I love Kickstarter for book publishing. I think it makes a lot of sense to publishers because, for example, when you're browsing the site, this is what it looks like. Kickstarter projects are a lot like making a book. You need a title, a subtitle, an image. Does that sound familiar to anyone? The project image is as important as the cover of your book. It's kind of its signature out in the world. It's what people see and that draws them in. I'm going to share a couple of project images just so you can see the range of what they look like. Some project images are illustrations. Some are text treatments with some graphic elements. And a lot of them actually look quite a lot like covers of books. So this is the story section. It's a place where you can use words, images, links, GIFs, and videos to tell the story of your project in a deeper way. The story can be, you can think about it a lot like your jacket copy. Or the project page is a little bit like an online retailer page, but you've got a lot more flexibility and more tools to use to tell the story of your project. It's important that your project be approachable and engaging. You want to think about how you would tell your friend about the new book you want to publish instead of using a faceless corporate voice, which I think sometimes you'll see publishing companies online try to be very staid and square. But I think a Kickstarter project is a place where you can be much more human, and it really resonates with the Kickstarter community. There are a couple of tools that Kickstarter projects have that we find are really compelling to help spread the word and get your message out there. One of them is the project video. You can think about it as an introduction to a project and an invitation to participate. Then rewards are the way that you motivate most backers to actually pledge to your project. I've had this conversation a couple of times today, but the way Kickstarter works, it's a value exchange platform. It's not an equity platform. So you might raise your $10,000 for your project, but you don't have to return that. It's not like an investor situation. That money is yours to make your project, and what you return to your backers is whatever reward you've promised them. I'm going to talk about rewards a little bit more in a minute. Another tool to spread the word and build excitement and relationships with your backers is project updates. So let's talk a little bit about the project video. I think this is a place that's scary for a lot of publishers because publishers aren't really used to communicating in the medium of video. A typical Kickstarter video is short, 2 minutes long. It's personal, shareable. Some people use fairly elaborate videos, especially in categories like film. But it can really just be a very simple, straightforward, publisher speaking to a potential backer. And assuming that the technology works, I'm going to show you a montage of different ways that people have approached their Kickstarter video. And there should be some music. Intermission. All right, let's try that again. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
What's up, people?
Hi.
Hey. Hello. I thought we were gonna do hello.
Hi.
I love your new shoes. Are those new shoes?
Hi, my name is Raquel.
And I could go on, but this is a Kickstarter campaign video, and I haven't even told you what my project is yet.
So the idea is this.
I'm writing a book.
A feature film. Stop motion animations.
Sci-fi music video album.
Let people actually be able to buy a couture dress that they themselves design.
I want to make a new graphic novel, and I want you to get some original art.
This time I decided to write things that were more lyrical.
I hope to make something strange and unique for you to enjoy.
I made a film called Codependent Lesbian Space Alien Seek Same.
Right now, I'm sitting on over 200 hours of incredible footage.
I'd like your help to complete it.
Cut out all that extraneous stuff, all those extraneous costs, and get to the point, which is simply more art in front of more people.
The last piece of the puzzle is going to be you.
We cannot do this without you. We can't.
We need you to be a part of this. This is a collaborative experience.
If you back this Kickstarter project, you will be cool and everybody will like you.
I want to make a show that you don't just watch. Something unpredictable, strange, and maybe even amazing.
So let's do this thing.
I'm really excited for this. I think that this is worth doing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our Kickstarter video.
Let's go make a story.
We can make it together.
So you see, there's a completely wide range of different ways that people use their videos. But I think that the theme that ties them together is they are trying to connect with their potential backers and get them as excited about the project as the creators. So I mentioned I would speak a little bit more about rewards. Sometimes people will pledge to your project just because they think your idea is cool and they want to see it come to the world. But a lot of times what compels people to back is because they want a copy of what you're making. You can get really elaborate with rewards, but you don't have to. The majority of backers want a copy of the thing you're making, so a book or an ebook. But you can also offer creative rewards such as behind-the-scenes access, conversations with authors, etc. I'm going to talk a little bit more about rewards and specific rewards soon. The most common pledge level on the site is $25. People typically have 5 to 7 reward tiers or even more, and we encourage people to have a range of different price points so that people who have fewer resources can still back your project, but that people who are more passionate fans can get involved in a deeper way. We've also seen that the $100 level can be very, very compelling to people. It's the tier that raises the most money on average on the site. So I'm going to introduce you to a couple of projects and show you what they've done with rewards. This is from a book project called All Black Cats Are Not Alike. It was 50 portraits of black cats and little captions and a paragraph about these black cats. For $32, a backer could get a copy of the book. For $100, the illustrator would make a custom avatar for the backer that they could use on social media. And at the $250 level, your all-black cat could be featured in the book. This is a project called Kim Bookbinder's Infinite Minute. The premise of the project was that Kim would make new songs, original songs it was a minute long. Each song would be a minute long. And for each $100 raised, she would do another song. Every backer at every level got access to the songs that she created in the project. But at the $100 level, she would make a custom song for you based on a theme or a phrase that you chose. This was my project. It was a book project. Every single backer at any level was thanked in the back of the book. At the $8 level, people got access to the ebook. At the $25 level, they got a print book and the ebook. And at the $100 level, I invited people to be beta readers. So I sent them the manuscript before it was even a book, and they sent me feedback, which I didn't think would be compelling. I had 5 of them originally, because you can limit how many of something that you offer. They sold out immediately, so I offered another 5, and they sold out too. And then I stopped, because I didn't want more than 10 people giving me feedback on my manuscript. But you see, it can be a way to build relationships with your fans in a way that's just not possible when you're selling books. Some projects don't make a physical thing or want to produce something that they offer for free or through Creative Commons license. Roman Mars is a podcast maker, and he wanted to make his 99% Invisible podcast free to the world. So that makes rewards a little tricky. He asked designers he admired to make designs for him and offered backers the opportunity to pledge for these individual notebooks. You could pledge for just one notebook at the $15 level or get more notebooks, and he had a variety of designs so that people could back at a level that felt comfortable to them. I mentioned project updates earlier. This is kind of like a combination of newsletter and blog, and people can use these in all different sorts of ways. While your project is live, you can use it as a way to keep people posted on the funding progress. And once the project is done, you keep people in the loop about what you're doing and how it's going. I'll show you a couple of sample project updates. So sometimes people use them very simply to tell people, we're this far along towards our goal. If a creator is attending an event or running an event, they can invite backers to join them. You can use it to celebrate milestones. For example, LeVar Burton ran a project to bring back Reading Rainbow, and he hit his $1 million goal in less than a day. So his first project update was a video that was shot on an iPhone of LeVar Burton crying in joy. It was a really special experience for his backers, which, it's just not a way that most people interact with their fans. You can add new rewards while the project is live and use an update to tell people about them. Sometimes there are bumps in the road, and we really encourage creators to share the creative process as it happens. I think sometimes people feel like their project needs to go perfectly, and that if something goes wrong, they want to hide it. But actually, we find that backers tend to be really sympathetic and generous about the creative process. This is from my own project. I had a problem where I thought I had told my copy editor I was hiring her, but I hadn't. So when I went to hire her and send her the manuscript, she was booked up. So I sent this backer update, really dreading it and telling people that the project might be delayed and how I was intending to fix it. And rather than being mad that my project might be late and their books would be delayed, 6 of my backers actually reached out and offered to connect me to copy editors they knew. Once your project is funded and you're moving along with your project, you can use the backer updates to keep your backers posted. So for example, when you decide on a cover image, when you send the files off to press, or when you start shipping the books. You have the ability to limit your updates to backers only if you want. So you can share a sneak peek of the project in progress, but not have that go out to the whole world. You can also use them in really fun ways. This is the All Black Cats project again. One of their backers said, "Hey, one of the cats in your project looks a lot like Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones." So they sent out this project update pointing out different cats that looked like different Game of Thrones characters. So why should a publisher use Kickstarter? There are many ways that publishers can use Kickstarter to reach your goals. And I'll go through a lot of the different ways that, the different benefits and approaches to running a project. One, you can use Kickstarter to test out an idea and see if enough people are excited about it to justify spending time and resources on it. That's one way that all or nothing mechanic comes into play that can be great. You can put that out there, and if you find that there's a lukewarm response, just don't do it. You haven't wasted anything except your time, and you can move on to something that your fans are more excited about. You can use Kickstarter for market research. Our site provides tools and metrics so that you can see where your pledges are coming from. This is a snapshot of our creator dashboard. We're also integrated with Google Analytics, so if you want to get really granular, you can hook Google Analytics up to the project and see a lot more information. You can also use Kickstarter to expand your audience. As I mentioned earlier, the all or nothing model encourages people to share your project, so you can speak not just to your current fans and readers, but to their friends, their families, and a wider pool. The backer updates let you build relationships with readers in a different way than you might through your social channels or through advertising. Rewards are another great way to connect deeply with fans. When you go to package up your book or whatever the rewards are, you can make it really personal. You can include bookmarks or postcards, stickers, copy of your catalog, and you can make it feel like you're getting a package from a friend instead of a shrink-wrapped book from an online retail platform. Publishers who run more than one project also see that some backers will follow them from one project to another. You can also use Kickstarter as a way to connect with an international audience. We see that 66% of the backers of Canadian Publishing Project are from outside of Canada. So that can be a way to test the waters internationally, to connect with international fans, even if you don't have a rights deal or a distribution agreement set up yet, or even as a proving ground so that you can take that information and use it to sell rights into a territory. However, if you have rights issues or you just don't want to deal with international shipping, you can limit where you're willing to ship rewards to. Kickstarter is available not just in English, but in French, German, and Spanish. So speakers of different languages can view the site copy in their own language. We also have a caption tool. So if you have a video in English, you can caption it in French or vice versa. And Kickstarter, our publishing category, isn't just for publishing books. Some publishers and authors are using it incredibly creatively, so I'll go through a couple of different project ideas. 172 Herman Melville lovers used it to fund the Moby Dick Marathon, where people got together in New York City to read Moby Dick cover to cover in a long weekend. New World Magiscola just ran an incredibly successful project to create a live-action role-playing weekend where the backers will actually get to inhabit the world of a North American-based magic school, wizard school. So people, fans of Harry Potter series, will actually get to live out those dreams. And this is tied into a series of novels that's going to be written. This project is a card game that was based on Patrick Rothfuss's work. People are raising money for events, author tours, anthologies, apps, a whole season of titles, and more. We're always thrilled to see publishers and authors using the platform in creative ways. Actually, right before this, I was talking to someone about our archives project. It's an initiative within Kickstarter to shine a spotlight on projects to restore and archive different types of content. So one publisher used it to digitize out-of-print science fiction works. We've seen it as a way to restore old films or provide open access to digital materials. But we're really excited about that as a different way to preserve culture. And Kickstarter projects are starting to get attention worldwide. We've seen people doing some really incredible things on the platform, and I'll go through just a couple examples. Projects on Kickstarter are being nominated for awards. A number of film projects have been nominated for Academy Awards, and one won an Oscar for the Best Short Documentary in 2013. Art funded on Kickstarter has been exhibited in internationally renowned museums like the MoMA and the Smithsonian. At least a dozen Kickstarter projects have launched items into space, including the Slice of Pizza, which was for a music video for a band called Amanaguchi. Last year, Copper Canyon Press raised money to publish recently discovered but previously unpublished Pablo Neruda poems. The book is going to be out this spring, and as a Neruda fan, really excited. Can't wait. McSweeney's funded a whole season of their work, including books, their website, their publications, their youth outreach programs, and more. Robert Wyde helped raise finishing funds for his documentary on Kurt Vonnegut. And as I mentioned before, 100,000 people helped LeVar Burton bring Reading Rainbow, a children's literacy program, back for a new generation of children. His project set a record on Kickstarter with over 100,000 backers. So I hope some of you will consider using Kickstarter to introduce your projects and tell your stories to the world. If anyone has any questions, I'll take those now. I can't see incredibly well, so.
I got two questions. The first question is, how do you get paid? The second question is, can you give us some ideas or goals
offering just an ebook. I keep squinting because there's lights in my eyes.
Hi, I have a question. How do you find in the Kickstarter community that you have to justify the cost that you've put on your campaign? So I'll give you an example. If you're writing a book, it takes you time to write a book, but it doesn't actually take you resources like building the cooler or having a manufacturer do a run. So do you find that the community is open to saying, well, we'll pay you for your time while you're writing that book? Or do you have to justify the expense by saying, oh, I have to do this research trip, or I have to hire a photographer for my illustrations? Or how do you think they react to that notion of cost to create a book?
The question was, how does the Kickstarter community respond to the cost of the time it takes to write a book? This is a really tricky issue, and I think it's not just tricky on Kickstarter, it's tricky everywhere. Certain categories on Kickstarter are much more understanding and forgiving that it takes time to create something. For example, in the technology category or the film category, of course you have to budget salaries into the cost of a project. But I think in publishing it's a little trickier because it does look like it's free to write a book. And also because the world has kind of a tricky relationship between creativity and money, that can be a lot of a challenge. I think you should just be straightforward that if you want to raise money to give yourself time to work on a book project, you should just say, I need 3 months to do this. This is the cost to this. I also need travel and research and whatever else. If I raise this money, then I'll make the project. If not, I'm going to take on freelance jobs or do what I'm doing. So if you want this book, please help me get to this goal. We did see one project where the creator didn't message that incredibly well and got some backlash on Twitter. But my advice for her, if she had talked to me before she took her campaign down, would have been, people don't have to like what you're doing, and people don't have to back what you're doing. But if you are doing something cool and your community is excited about it, those people will back you. Just like when you publish a book, the entire world doesn't have to buy your book. But if 50,000 people want to buy your book, then that's a project that's worth doing. And if 10 people have something horrible to say about your book, generally though, aside from that one project, the Kickstarter community has been really, really supportive of books and publishing projects.
Hi, thanks. It sounds like you've brought many projects to successful fruition. That's great. I'm wondering if you have any further information, though, on some of these books that are brought into publication, on actual sales figures beyond that.
The question is, do I have any information about sales figures for projects that were funded on Kickstarter? That's very challenging because we don't tend to work directly with creators, and because every creator has a different goal for what they want to do. So sometimes people just want to make a single run of a children's book, send it out to their backers, and then move on with their life and go back to their day job. Other times people will use Kickstarter as a springboard to create a work, and then it'll be picked up by a traditional publisher and go on to great success. For example, Robin Sloan's book, Mr. Penumbro's 24-Hour Bookstore, started as a Kickstarter project. We've also seen, I included Linda Lucas's project, Hello Ruby, earlier. That was another one that was acquired by a traditional publisher. And in fact, actually, the Cats book was acquired by Chronicle, and that was just announced yesterday. So we're seeing that some projects go on to have greater life and much wider distribution into traditional publishing channels. But then there's a lot in the middle where it's a more independent publisher that does it and sells it through their channels. Or for my example, I had 254 backers for my project. I raised $7,000. I overprinted about 1,200 copies, and I've sold almost all the way through that since last July. And that's not my full-time gig. So I think it really depends, but there's definitely, there are lots of markets for Kickstarter projects beyond just Kickstarter. And in fact, I think some publishers are concerned if I put this on Kickstarter, everyone will just back the Kickstarter project and no one will buy the book. Only a small percentage of people who want your book would ever back a Kickstarter project, because there is that risk, and a lot of people want to read a review before they buy a book. So I think it's a really great way to seed the audience, but you're never going to capture your whole audience on Kickstarter. Well, I'm going to be here for the rest of the day, so feel free to come find me. You can also email me, connect with me on Twitter. And if you don't speak English, I don't speak any French, and I'm very sorry, but you should drop me a line anyway, because some of my colleagues are fluent in French, and so they can help us have an international communication.
Thank you, Margot.